I had a chance to visit Puerto Rico just before the hurricane hit to learn more about the island's history and relationship with the U.S. and what Puerto Ricans want for their future.
As Puerto Ricans, we've been American citizens for a century. Our citizens have died for the United States.
18-year-old Julio Correa lives in Puerto Rico and says he wants the same rights as American citizens on the mainland.
What we're asking for is a better quality of life here in Puerto Rico, and I think, and everyone here thinks, that it would happen with statehood.
Over the summer, Puerto Ricans like Julio voted for full statehood, wanting the island territory to be the 51st state of the U.S. And Puerto Rican representatives are pushing the case to Congress, who has to make the final decision.
I'd love to see a path forward where I can live here and vote for the President of the United States, where I can live here and vote for my congressman, where I can live here and have a quality of life that's equal.
There's these moments like either the hurricane or economic crisis where suddenly people in the mainland United States are reminded that Puerto Rico is even part of the United States.
Yarimar Bonilla is a professor of Caribbean Studies at Rutgers University.
These places have citizens also that are also American and that are also part of the fabric of the nation.
Puerto Rico is a U.S. Commonwealth, so even though the island has the same president as the United States, residents here can't vote in the presidential election. Puerto Rico doesn't have a vote in Congress. The residents don't pay the same taxes, and the island even has its own constitution. Why is this the case? The United States gained control of Puerto Rico back in 1898 during the Spanish-American War, but it wasn't until 1917 that President Woodrow Wilson signed the Jones Act into law, making residents here U.S. citizens. Fast forward to 1952, when the island became a Commonwealth, which means it's not a state, but it's not independent either. And that has made it more difficult for the island to get out of its current crisis: massive debt.
Part of what really fueled the crisis that Puerto Rico finds itself in is that it borrowed more than it could pay back. But the reason why it was allowed to borrow so much was because of Puerto Rico's relationship to the United States.
The island's debt stacks up at more than $70 billion, resulting in a crisis that left many on the island without jobs, causing hundreds of thousands to move to the U.S. mainland.
It's difficult for us, the young people, because we're starting out and we have to stay here. I think the majority look for other opportunities in the United States. There are some people who stay, but it's very little.
Also, as people migrate, there's less people paying taxes. And so the government will have even less resources with which to provide services to the population.
If another country or even a state faced this kind of debt, it could declare bankruptcy. But Puerto Rico's status means it can't do that. So the island needs the federal government's help.
Some say that statehood is now less possible because who wants to admit a bankrupt state?
We're not really needed in the United States. I mean, we have a debt that the United States Congress will not take.
That's one of the reasons Jose Cos thinks Puerto Rico should break away from the U.S. and become a new country.
We have our own culture, our own people, our own mentality and dynamics of working. So I think that Puerto Rico should be independent from the United States. There are a lot of things that are limiting us just because of that relationship.
And now the debt crisis is infinitely worse, with the new disaster unfolding on the island. President Trump tweeted last week, "Texas and Florida are doing great, but Puerto Rico, which was already suffering from broken infrastructure and massive debt, is in deep trouble." San Juan's mayor, Carmen Yulín Cruz, says the biggest priority now isn't the debt, but saving lives.
This is the time for action. Let's not talk about the debt.
Asia Celestino, Channel 1 News.